Hi, I'm Sophie Milliken and welcome to this episode of the Ambition Accelerator Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking to serial entrepreneur and investor Lara Morgan. Hello and welcome, Lara Morgan. I'm so excited to be speaking to you, Lara, because I have your book and I really enjoyed reading your book a few years back. So I know that you've got loads of really useful advice and guidance to share. So Lara is an investor in health and wellbeing products and, as I've said, has got plenty of good stuff to share with us. So first of all, can I just take you back, Lara, a little bit? And can you tell me, did you always know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh, yes, I definitely wanted to be an air hostess. I remember those days. And then I wanted to be a golf pro, which is kind of weird, but it's probably typical that I quite liked playing with the boys. And then my dad went bankrupt and I needed to get a job. And, my dad had always run, in my memory, his own company. So I had an enterprise background. My mum ran her own English teaching school and we lived in Hong Kong. So enterprise was really normal. But I didn't think I was going to be, I always thought, aspiring. And I'm so flipping old, enterprise was not spoken about much. You weren't called an entrepreneur, you were a business founder or, and it's really, I hit the cusp of when I was well before Dragon's Den days, but it was the days when, you wouldn't have dared refer to yourself as an entrepreneur. It was kind of a badge of pride that you earned, that your colleagues would say, God, you're enterprising. And you think, yeah, I quite like that badge, but I think it's something you earn.
So have you got any sort of funny stories of early on, being an entrepreneur from early on, or because you kind of fell into it almost, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I mean, my dad went bankrupt and, there weren't many funny stories early on because I was faking it till I was making it. And I think that's probably the first key takeaway, which is it's extraordinary that this 23-year-old with just a little bit of business experience, I started selling when I was 18. It was my only skill set. Really gave that ability of selling gave me the confidence that, if you don't know, ask, and constantly be on this path of learning, because I had the most ridiculous career up to then. I'd sold merchandise and promotional giveaways in Hong Kong. I'd then lived in the Middle East and sold Yellow Pages advertising space, which was a hell of a baptism, and selling in 6 countries. I was very, very lucky that I then got to run my own tiny little company while I was running and frankly canoeing around New Zealand selling advertising space off the back of a relationship that I'd built. And then I was offered the opportunity basically to sell shower caps for a living. And so, everything that I had done up until then was selling and learning about budget and numbers and doing deals and all the rest of it, the kind of finance and the marketing. And I ran a company with the shittest brand name in the universe, but we still made millions of pounds. And so I knew nothing about anything. And so I guess that's the second thing, which is, if you can learn to sell, you can sell your way out of trouble. And what's more, you can learn the rest.
I really like what you just said there about if you don't know something to ask. Do you still do that?
Oh, yes. If you don't know, ask. And what's more, layer in humility, be the learner, never be arrogant, pack your humility. Yes, you may know, but actually the brain picking exercise might teach you something more. So I'm still faking it. I end up brain picking some brilliant people. I called an awesome entrepreneur who scared me shitless the other day, but by having the desire to learn, I'm still learning, and that pays me dividends and gets me shortcuts and accelerates our opportunities. And, you have to put energy into the learning first and foremost, I think, or else actually, you can't stand still in business. Business will eat you alive.
So interesting again there, you talking about always be learning, and that was one of my later questions, but let me come to it now. So in terms of your own development, to what extent would you say self-development has played a role in your own success?
Enormous amounts, but I'm an idiot. It took me a long time to recognize and realize and value investing in myself was not a ridiculous expense. I mean, I am partly Scottish and very mean, and I bootstrapped the hell out of the business. So, I really Pacific starved and I starved for years. But much more importantly, I'm such an idiot. It took me really 9 proper years to go and invest in my own personal strategic intelligence and my business nous. And I went on a course at Cranfield called Business Growth Development. But, I was terrified when I went because I'm kind of the upstart in the room. I was actually breastfeeding my first child, which was quite new for them, but I was given permission. And that was year 2000, I went on the course. But I had a business plan and I did put it in a drawer, and there are some awesome templates today. And just to give you the mathematical benefit of self-learning, by then I was still reading every book in the W.H. Smith's business section. Right? I read every time I traveled, I read a book on business, and I'd turn over the corners and piss my mum off because she'd never mark books and all that. And then I'd rip them out sometimes. That really would have wound her up, and put them in my team's boxes to say, do you think we should do this? Take photocopies. That's illegal as well. So, break the rules. That's fine. But the truth is that gave us cutting edge information. But what it didn't give us is a really complete plan. So I got a grant for my learning, which you can get. And I went to Cranfield, and I had the most, life-changing experience, because I finally really understood formality of business. And since then, I've had the privilege of going to Stanford and London Business. I've even lectured at London Business School. God knows why they would let me in. But, that constant learning underpins everything. This morning, I got up at 7:00 and I listened to the Global Fit Summit, because I'm trying to become an expert in fitness and health and wellness. How do I learn? Listen to the experts.
Brilliant. I love that. And that was going to be my follow-up question around, do you still do that now, even though you're perceived to be very successful? And do you keep learning?
I've got a better thing to challenge. Well, perception of success, unfortunately, is very simplistic, because kind of people think it's around a bank account. It's actually around happiness. Do what makes you happy. If you can plan in life to do what makes you happy or content, and that's been my life plan since 2004, when I started really life planning. And of course, that might come with sacrifices. Along the way, I've had 3 wonderful children, but they haven't seen their mum as much as others might have seen her. But I captured that in the book, as you've rightly said. And I've accepted that on balance, the sacrifices I have made so far give me the freedom and the choice to continue doing what the bloody hell I like. And, that's a pretty good equation. So for me, freedom, choice, is the most valuable currency in the universe. There's nothing better.
I couldn't agree more. I did my first TEDx talk just before lockdown. Actually, it came out a few weeks ago, and I was talking about the fact that for me, money equates to freedom to make the choices.
Me too. Security. Yes. I mean, because my dad went bankrupt, the security card, I think, was the kind of gremlin on my shoulder that was going, you need to bank it, you need to, and for the years we had an amazing growth curve, thanks to my amazing team at Pacific, who I will never, ever forget. And I have the privilege of working with today, many of them. And the bottom line is that whatever drives you, it has to be something much more than money, because money isn't enough. And actually, as you start to accumulate, inverted commas, paper wealth, like an asset in a business, and I had 99% of Pacific because I ducked and I dived, but actually that was probably a mistake as well, because I might have grown faster with using someone else's capital. But you exit at 20.2 million and you have 99%. Let me tell you, you're never going to look back. But I maybe I could have done better. And I think that's the kind of driver today, which is, why do you work like an idiot? Why are you playing? I'm playing with candle packaging because I want to be better and different. And I'm relentless and I love it. And I can't, if we're inventing or we're doing differently, then that's my drug.
You can tell that you love it because you come alive when you
talk. I mean, it's
and I'm the same. I can't ever imagine retiring, because I love the chase of things and the excitement that it brings. And I often feel that although I know that I work a lot more hours than other people, it often doesn't feel like work because I enjoy it. And so I don't.
Yeah, you're in your playground, aren't you?
Absolutely. So that brings me on to a key topic in the book, which is about work-life balance. And I get really annoyed that women always get asked about that, because I don't see men getting asked about that, or not in the same way. And in the book, I talk about the fact that I don't think work-life balance exists. And actually, my view is that you can only ever prioritize a couple of things at one time. You can't really have it all, in the sense of being able to do everything at one time. What's your view on that?
Well, I'm laughing because here in front of you, I have the most stupid title piece of paper called Find Your Balance. And I don't even agree with it, right? Well, I mean, years ago, and I've never, you can see my scribbles. I never stick to anything, but I do stick to the fact that if this is my life, this circle, and I'm engaged, what I've worked out, this is my balance. If I'm spending time building businesses and doing in the shaded area, the family has to fit into the other stuff, as does fitness and the dogs and various other bits and pieces, like, being a civilized human being and putting back into society. That's my balance, right? Now, your balance might be completely different. I just think we've got to be more honest about, you can't do it all and have it all and be perfect. You just got to be honest with yourself. And then you're going to look for this contentment. And since I've really understood that I'm not playing the guilt card, I mean, I traveled all over the world. I built this absolutely magnificent brand because it's portable aromatherapy and you place it on your pulse points, and here I am selling to you. But the point is that this breathing tool, this powerful positive aroma, was the bit I needed. And in those days it was in an oil format, but I would literally turn into bloody Wonder Woman, phoning the children and going, how was school today? And it's hard, right? And I never had a balance. I was knackered. I felt like chewed string most of the time. But that is enterprise. And if you don't want to play that game, you ain't going to make 20 million quid. So,
isn't it?
It's a choice. Absolutely a choice.
And now that the kids are a bit older, have you ever had any conversations with them around how that felt for them as they were younger? What
yeah, I mean, really, really interestingly, about, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, my very bright, very academic, quite scary 21-year-old, so I guess she was younger, 18 or something, reduced me to tears because she had an epiphany, I think, that, you know, the reason we have a swimming pool and a tennis court, if you like, or we live in heaven on earth, and I feel more deeply privileged today about, you know, the isolation that some people are living in, is because of the sacrifices that I made on her behalf. But I was always driven because my goal was to be able to afford choice to send my children to the best schools. That was bull, by the way, because I think the education system's broken. So you think you want something, you then earn it, and it's not necessarily as you perceived it. So you learn lessons on the way. But yeah, Katie reduced me to tears because she, you know, she's now got a mum that can help her with her network, who's in business, who's kind of different. And interestingly enough, I think I'm very lucky that I got pretty grounded children. That's because I'm also the nastiest mother in the world, apparently. As in, you know, they don't get the best tech and they don't get lots of things that other, perhaps more spoiled children would get.
Well, that's to do with your values rather than cash, isn't it? So that's
absolutely. But you know, how do you teach someone your priorities? I've got my 18-year-old's doing volunteering. Is she 19 actually? I forget. But she's doing NHS volunteering at the moment and learning lessons about the people that come and go from pharmacies and manners and all sorts of things, right? We learn stuff. They've all worked down the pub, and you know, you've got to serve at tables to understand the difference about behavior, and those things will stand them in good stead as they come across quirky and awkward situations as they grow.
No, I love that. That's great. So if you were to sort of go back to sort of the Pacific days, did you set yourself specific goals?
Always.
So
endlessly.
always goals.
Targets.
And what did you do when you hit those goals?
Well, I'm quite well known for saying that, you know, in the early days, I didn't have much money. So I would literally be, and apologies to James who's in the room, but I would literally be, you know, lying on a beautician's couch getting my legs waxed. And that was a reward for selling, for making targets, because, you know, it was, God, it's probably about 15 quid in those days or something. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't, you know, but to me, that was reward. I mean, in the same way that I had, my first member of staff was a jelly tot addict. So I knew to bribe her, I needed to have jelly tots at hand. And the best learning that I can give people, you know, if there's a listening group that want to really act, is don't reward somebody something that you think they want. Find out what they want and then reward them what they've earned, kind of thing. You know, there are a couple of things that I dictate with my younger people, which is setting up a pension when they get a raise and, you know, at the stage where I think they can afford it. But yeah, I mean, we did mad stuff at Pacific and we winged it for years. And I never told a lie, and I never made a promise I didn't believe we would keep, but I definitely pushed boundaries. And I think that is enterprise.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think I kind of know the answer to this because I've just had a flashback of something that you wrote in your book. But how do you celebrate success? And the reason I'm saying a flashback is because you did something pretty massive with your team.
It wasn't my idea. I mean, all the good ideas are somebody else's ideas, but it kind of, well, I began the idea. So when I finished Cranfield, they said that you needed a BHAG. And I thought, what the hell's a BHAG? So again, more learning, but a big, hairy ass goal or ambition. So I literally gathered my team around the next day back in the office. And I said, right, let's work out a really big goal. Let's do it together. And then let's celebrate success. And we had a brainstorm, and a smart ass from the back called Daniel Smith said, why don't you take us all to Barbados? And I said, well, what's the deal? And they kind of said, well, what about if we make £1 million of profit? Now, at that point, we were making about £670,000 profit a year. And within the next 12-month period, we made the £1 million. So I know for a fact that all of them drank the menu of drinks at the place we went to in Barbados. But I have to say that it taught me, about that thing of joint rewarding. And it's something that we're working on again now that the businesses that I invest in today have momentum. We want to celebrate and reward people according to the effort they put in.
I love it. So do you always take that time then to celebrate success and to just...
No, I'm rubbish at it.
On to the next
I'm
thing.
relentless, and I like, I need to improve in that area. And it swings and roundabouts. Business, people will always assume that because you've had one successful business, it's easy to have the next. Well, it's not. It's easy to fail. And it's a lot easier to fail. And many people fail, and many people don't come out the other side. And 56% of businesses set up in their first 3 years never make it to year 4. Mm-hmm. And then of those that are left, I think it's some amazing statistic, like 50% more fail by the time they're in year 5.
Yeah.
The statistics are horrific. So
yeah, I remember we had a big celebration when we were 5, based at
and so you should.
Yeah, it was good. So just a couple more questions then. Who would you say have been your role models throughout your career?
I've my parents were unbelievable. They taught us old-fashioned values, and for that I'll always be grateful. Like, if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves, and if at first you don't succeed, try again. And
all the classics,
right? I can bore you witless, but actually they're really important. But then in terms of inspiration, I think one of the most important things that I would share with perhaps listeners is the kind of mentorship, the reach out and get someone you like and respect, the learn from a marketeer if you need to know marketing, learn from a people person if you need to know human resources, I should say. But, at the moment it's a bit of remains. Reach out to the real experts that you can relate to. It's like your accountant and your lawyer are paid by you and they live by what you earn. So interview them rigorously and select wisely someone you really believe you could sit on a flight to Australia with. If you do not think you can share a seat on an aeroplane with someone to Australia, they shouldn't be your accountant, your banker, or your lawyer, because they're boring enough as it is, right?
Yeah.
But that's really solid advice, and I say it with a touch of humor, but I'm deadly serious. I've worked with my lawyer for the best part of 5 years, and I would put my life in his hands and I trust him implicitly.
That's good. Have you ever had imposter syndrome?
I didn't even know what it was.
And when you found out what it was...
Of course everybody has it. I don't know that I'd call, somebody's labeled it. In the same way that some stupid woman labeled the glass ceiling, because no man would have been as descriptive as that. Do I have doubt? Am I scared sometimes? Did I have concerns about some of the lunatic ideas, like printing 500,000 sachets and then thinking I'd sell them, even though I haven't shown them to anyone, but I thought it was a good idea? The madcap stuff we used to do. And it's not all mad, because at the time, it's what feels right, it's what seems right, it's what's going to grow your business. So, no, I don't think I
that's fine. It's fine to say.
The thing that I would say to your lot is, if you think you've got imposter syndrome, remember this, right? Every time you listen to the imposter, you're going nowhere and you're doing nothing. So the best thing you can do is make a sodding decision and make a mistake fast, because then you've learned something. And then you can make another quick decision and go in another direction and learn fast again. And you might be wrong again. But so what? Because you're now 2 steps further and closer to success. And that's the way I've looked at decision making. And I'm often wrong, but fortunately I'm sometimes right.
I like that. And it's about that fail fast and fail quick.
Absolutely.
Whatever that saying is, I think that's a good one.
Fail fast and also hire slow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's very good advice indeed. So just to finish up then, have you got a key piece of advice that either you've had which has served you well, or just something that you have that you would want to pass on to somebody else?
We always I don't have any right to give anyone advice. I think you should learn it from proper academics and grown-up people, but
or a grown-up.
Yeah, no, exactly. I haven't quite grown up yet. I'm not ever intending to grow up. I'm going to be at this for a while, but my very strong advice is that get your head and your heart around the finances and be rigorously disciplined, because if you can't read a balance sheet or a P&L, if you don't know the difference between profit and loss, and most importantly, if you're not costing correctly, you'll fail. Because you have to cost allocate. So the time that I've gifted you, you know, I could charge you £1,000 for half an hour, or, you know, 5,000 quid for a speech. But the truth is that I had to get to the speech, right? I had to turn up. I had to think about it. I had to think about it and not something else. Or I had to be ready, and, you know, I had to do something that wasn't necessarily going in one direction, but was a chosen direction. And maybe, you know, hopefully there's an upside, because I absolutely, you know, believe in giving back to the society that has looked after me so well. I also, you know, you can't sell a mindful well-being brand if you really don't give a toss about other people, right? I am centered because I want to live and breathe the fact that you do well mindfully, and you've got to get mind controlled, and you've got to be able to get, you know, a breath that gives you the confidence. And so, you know, I think if you don't get your finances right, your business will fail. It doesn't matter how clever you are, how engaging, what a good salesperson you are. If you don't know where your numbers and your cash is, you're toast.
Yep, I think that's very good advice. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me, Lara. I love hearing you speak. I love your direct approach. It's very welcome. I hope that you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Ambition Accelerator as much as I enjoyed recording it. If this was your first experience of tuning in, go back and listen to previous episodes, as there are some brilliant ones. Please do go and check those out. Hope to catch you next time.